Look at all of you over here. I'm not taking attendance. I'm a teacher, I'm not taking this attendance. But there will be a quiz next class. All right, let's see if you guys still have this programmed into your minds. I'm gonna say something, and I want you to reply. Good morning, class. Good morning. There you go, there you go. Thank you to that. Thank you, our national and international programs. Thank you, our school systems, for that. What I really want to talk about today is education. We have been through, all of us have been through education. My journey is what I'm going to talk about today, and it started 11 years ago. I was young, full of life and hopes and dreams, and I started teaching, and I was immediately crushed. Doesn't keep you alive for long, teaching the way we do. It was heartbreaking to see what our national and international systems have become. We are only worried. We're only worried about exams, first month, second month, final, right? Highlight this, underline this. Where are your notes? We don't look at learning anymore. So when I started teaching, when I got crushed, this terrible, crushing defeat at the beginning, I wanted to rebel against it. Being a revolutionary at heart, I took it in a really interesting direction. I looked up gamifying education, and I was really interested in this idea because I'm a gamer myself. I like computer games, and I like PlayStation games, and I've been a gamer my entire life. I understood the nature of games. And this nature of games should be in the classroom. And I started with little fourth graders, teaching them, and I started to include little extra worksheets, little extra work, and if you do this work, you get some points, and if you get these points, you can use them up for privileges in the classroom. You can eat candy in the classroom, and you could leave early for the break, or whatever it is. It was a fantastic idea. Suddenly, my students, instead of just focusing on studying for exams and studying for quizzes, and these are fourth graders, instead of studying for these, they started to have a need to do the work. And that's all that it is. The moment that need was awakened, the students felt like, I need to answer this worksheet. I need to do this spelling. I need to do this vocabulary. And once that happened, learning happened. And in the classroom itself, there was competitiveness. People wanted to learn, not get good grades. They just wanted to learn, to get extra points. Huge success. I loved it. Admin didn't like it too much. Created too much of chaos in the classroom. So what ended up happening was that I was told, maybe not here. And I moved. Crushing defeat right at the beginning. But I kept that little hope. It worked. I knew that it can work even more. I moved to a different school. I went to a school that was larger, more prestigious, bigger, and all of these nice things. 110 students in grade 8 alone. I was teaching middle school, higher grades, technically higher than fourth grade. And this time I was teaching social studies, not English. With social studies, which is essentially economics, business, and history, I decided, you know what? These students, I'm supposed to teach them economics and business, demand and supply, upward sloping for supply and downward sloping for demand, and they're supposed to understand it. They're supposed to look at me and say, yes, we fully understand this. I understood it. As an adult, I knew what business was. I live with it, and I interact with businesses all around me, but the students don't. Grade 8, you're somewhere around 13 years old. Do you remember 13 years old? Do you remember something from that time? Or if you go back in time and you remember your 8th grade, do you only remember silly jokes and an angry teacher screaming at you to be quiet and to sit down and to stop doing something? If that's your memory of grade 8, if that's your memory of being 13, 12, 13, then your schools have failed you. Then the educational system has failed you. And that's what I saw in that grade 8. I dusted off that gamifying education idea, and I was like, I want them to experience the business. So I told them, I had 110 students, and they were divided into 4 different sections, obviously, not like you guys here. And I told them, I want you to invest into an idea of your own making, into a business of your own making. And this business, and this activity is how I'm going to grade you. Don't worry about the exam. I just want to see a good business idea being implemented, and I just want to see you sell, prepare a business plan, sell, study the market, understand what's going on, make mistakes and learn from them. Immediate success. The students now suddenly want to know, how can I measure demand? Well, how can I measure my supply? What affects demand and supply for me as a businessman, as a businesswoman? And there we go. There was a need, the need to learn and figure out. And that's exactly what happened. 110 students, 4 different companies, immediate success. I was no longer listening to or hearing a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds bullying each other and making silly jokes. I was hearing businessmen and businesswomen. I was hearing directors and CEOs and executives talking about their business plan. Of course they did market research. Of course they did a market analysis. And of course they did consumer behavior. All of this at 13. One of the groups, in 3 days, made 580 JDs in profit. In 3 days, 580 JDs in profit. And I mean profit, not revenue, right? I have to be a teacher. Right, that's a huge success. And the students loved it, and I loved it, and the school loved it. And I was like, I'm going to take this to the next stage. I'm going to do this even bigger. I'm going to take the next topic that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to gamify the living nightmare out of it. And that's what it was, a living nightmare. Because 110 students can easily overwhelm you. And if it's just an idea that you just came up with, they can quickly overwhelm you. And that second idea flopped. It failed miserably. And if you fail in one of those big schools, you don't get to stay around. So I moved to the next school, my journey. I'm just hopping between one school to the next. My next school is the focus of what I want to talk about. It was a much smaller school, 35 students between grade 6 and grade 9, collectively, right? Not 110 students in grade 8 alone. Easier workload. I did the business idea, and it worked great. They made the money, they made the business plans, and they made the project, and it was fantastic. But then I moved to the next topic. These are grade 9 students. They're a little bit older. They were studying a different program, and I was teaching them global politics. With global politics, it's a lot more complex than business. It's a lot more complex than economics. It's difficult. It's hard. The students were feeling that pressure. I was like, I can do something with this. I'm an old gamer. I played games before I even had a PlayStation. I dusted off my old Dungeons & Dragons books. And I took those character sheets, and instead of a fantasy map, I made a fantasy map, but instead of people, we had countries on that map. And they were those countries. And those statistics that would have been, charisma, strength, whatever, stamina for the players, they were now economic power, level of technology, all of these things that make up a country, culture, and so on. Immediately, the students felt that need again. And we come to this word again, a need to learn. They wanted to win in this game. They wanted to play. And that play became their learning. They were engaged and they were learning. They started to ask me, what can I read? How can I understand how to develop a country? What makes up public policy? What makes up, interrelationships between different countries and different nationalities and different whatever? How can I develop my army? How can I develop my defenses? All of those things. Well, I gave them material to read. I told them, don't worry about it. You don't have to study. There's no exam. Just don't worry. I gave them material. Little did they know, I gave them grade 12 material. I gave them year 1, year 2, your university books, to grade 9 students. Didn't tell them a single thing about this. They found it difficult, but they had that need. And they wanted their country to win. They wanted to be the most powerful country in that game. So they read, they learned, they implemented, they applied everything that they learned. And suddenly, we see in this game the entire world court in front of us. They went through wars, they went through revolutions, they developed their infrastructure, they reformed their government. They did all of this by the book, How Countries Do It, supposedly. And it worked fantastic. They all got A's for that. At this point, you might be a cynic. You might be saying, well, you gave them a game. Did they really learn? Did they really understand what they were doing? Sure, they played a game, right? They rolled the dice. It's Dungeons & Dragons. Well, here's where assessment and testing came in. I told them, don't worry, I'm going to give you a little test. This test is not your grade. Don't worry about it. I just have to legally give you a test for ministry regulations. Don't worry about the test. It's going to be easy. You're going to walk in. You're just going to tell me a little bit about your experience, and that's it. Walk out, and that's all that it is. That wasn't what it was. I gave them the hardest exam possible. I am positive no one in this room can pass that exam. I gave them case studies, difficult case studies. I gave them knowledge questions that they had to know certain things. I gave them analytical questions. I gave them evaluative questions. I wouldn't have been able to solve that exam. But they did. The hardest exam I could possibly imagine, and they did. Not only that, 88% of them got 90% or higher on that exam. And I made it brutal. What came through in that exam? Their experience, their application of it. And what ended up happening was not only did they succeed where many university students would have failed, they did that at 14 years old. It's amazing, isn't it? The idea sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. The idea sometimes interacts with the student. Well, most of the time, 100% of the time, it does. Where it fails is usually administration. Some schools are more interested, and you've all been through this, some schools are more interested in financial gain rather than learning. And that's where we see this rift in our society. What time is it? No, it's 2:30. 2 hours ago, there's a court case going on in the Netherlands. And I wish to God it was my students who were in there as lawyers and judges, because I know what they learned. I know what they have experienced in that classroom. And it just makes me wonder and think, if we can take that experiment, if we can take that gamifying education, scale it up, not like I did and failed miserably with 110 students, but scale it up, what kind of impact would we have 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? Whatever that impact is, we deserve that opportunity. We deserve that chance. Our kids deserve that chance. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Thank you.